Welcome back. Coach Lochlainn here, and today you'll learn how to master the 3 most essential strikes using battle grip. I'm breaking down the correct technique for each strike and how to get the most out of them in your workouts. So grab your mace and let's get flowing. Our first strike today is a down strike, and while that's relatively simple, the switch is much more challenging, and I'll explain both. Now, the first thing I want you to understand is the difference between center grip and battle grip. Center grip is when I have one hand in the middle of the mace, roughly at the top of the knurling, and battle grip is when I have both hands on the mace, which allows me to use the top hand as a fulcrum and the tail hand to control the angle, the orientation of the mace. This is very, very important to understand, especially as we get into strikes 2 and 3 and all the switches. Now you can join me here for this first strike. So I'm gonna start in warrior stance, both hands bottom of the mace, bring one hand up into center grip, and then I'll shift the mace slightly to the side, like so. And now you can see that it's in front of that shoulder, same side as that top hand. And then I'm simply going to draw the mace down and finish with the mace head pointing straight forward. And I want to keep tension pushing down through the tail and keep pulling the center grip hand in towards my body. And I'll be activating the back and the bicep as I do so. Now, from here, I'm going to switch the mace. And the key to switching the mace is I'm going to push down on the tail to get the mace to go vertical. And then I'll slide the tail hand up so that the hands meet in the middle, and I'll slide the opposite hand down, and you'll see that I've now begun that same initial posture on the other side. Top hand high in front of the same side shoulder. And then I'll draw down, exhaling as I do so, push down on the tail to orient the mace vertical, pulling the center grip hand in slightly, and then I'll switch hands once more and strike. And that is really the basics of the movement. However, there's a little bit more to it than that, particularly as you get into a snap switch. So in the very slowed down version of that switch, you're essentially orienting the mace and then doing a prayer switch. When you get into switching the mace more quickly, you are actually going to be doing the same thing, but creating a little bit of a snap. And so I'm pushing the tail down, and I want to basically slide my hands towards one another and then be able to switch from there. That takes a little bit more practice and a little bit more control. So start by making it nice and slow like I was describing, making it go vertical and then switching, and then eventually you can really get it into position. Now, one other thing with this strike that I want you to know is that you can make it much harder on yourself the further that you extend the head of the mace from your body, obviously, right? Now, this also means you can make it much easier by simply moving your hand closer to the head of the mace, because it gives more leverage over the head of the mace. So that's what you want to keep in mind for your strike. And again, the harder that you make it, the more you're going to have to use the top hand to control the fulcrum and the bottom hand to adjust the angle of the mace. You'll get a lot more arm engagement, a lot more back engagement as well. So now that we've covered the down strike, we are ready to move on to strike 2, which is a horizontal chop and looks like this. Now, this is a really unique movement because we are now moving, instead of shoulder down to hip, now we're moving just purely across the body. And this makes it really different mechanically in terms of the muscles we engage to make the mace move across the body. We're using a lot of core in this. Now you can join me right now and do it with me. So both hands bottom of the mace. I'm gonna bring my right hand up into that center grip, shift it to the side slightly. I'll drop it back, and I want to have the mace pointing straight backwards so the head is behind me. From here, I'm going to pull the tail of the mace in towards my body, push the center grip hand forward and across, and I want to use my core to really control the strike across. And now I'll have the head of the mace pointing forwards once more. From there, I'll push down on the tail, same principle. I'm going to flip the mace over, prayer switch as it's vertical and catch, mace points back, and then chop. Push down on the tail, switch the mace, and chop. Push down on the tail, switch the mace, drop it back, and chop. Like so. And what I'm looking to do is really engage the muscles of the core and be keeping the elbows and the hands in close to my body. I don't ever want to be having a chop happening out here. I want to keep it nice and in, close to my body so I can really control it and maximize the power. Now, one more thing on this, again, is going to be about kind of the tension field between the arms. Now, I was saying I pull one hand in and kind of push the other hand out. You'll notice that that'll end up making your strike more powerful than if you even just simply rotate across. So I want to use my core to rotate the body and the hands to pull the mace in and push it out into the next strike. So you can try that out. It's an amazing strike, and that primes us perfectly to move on to strike 3, which is an uppercut. Now the uppercut's my personal favorite because it's just so darn fun. Here's what it looks like. I'm gonna be simply doing an uppercut across the body, being able to switch the mace, and I can make this really beautiful kind of figure 8 pattern that just continues on and on. Now, there's a couple really essential keys to getting this movement down so that not only it's effective in your workouts, but frankly also so it looks really beautiful and cool while you do it. Now, to do it, you can join me here, back in warrior stance. Bring my right hand back up to center grip, top of the knurling, grip, and bring it back to the side, in front of that same side shoulder as the high hand, just as we've been talking about. And from there, I'm gonna drop the head of the mace back, just like the chop, but I'm now going to lower it even more. And so it's a slight angle like so, and then I'm going to sweep the mace up and across the body from hip to opposite shoulder, like so. Now from here, I'm gonna pull down on the tail so that the mace is vertical once more, prayer hands, switch the mace, drop it back down at that angle, and then hip to shoulder. Pull down on the tail, switch, angle it low, hip to shoulder, switch, and continue. Now, I made that look relatively easy. If you are struggling with it, there are a few tips that I have for you to get much more out of this movement so it feels a lot smoother. I'm gonna break those down now. First thing, I mentioned this kind of low angle. What I like to do is essentially have the mace in any comfortable position so that I can easily be drawing the head of the mace from behind my body into the front and up. So I wanna make this motion feel as smooth as I can. So you can even just practice this part of it, holding the mace like so, and then just bringing it up and across the body. Now, the second thing, and this is probably the most important thing of all, is that I want to make sure that my elbows are playing a very specific role. Specifically, I want my tail hand, elbow, to be pulling up into that uppercut. So I want it to be opening my shoulder, and I'll actually switch sides so you can see. The tail hand is gonna come up, and I'm opening the shoulder, pulling the tail of the mace back. So that elbow leads up high. Now the opposite hand, the head hand, center grip hand, is going to do the exact opposite. It's gonna stay nice and close in towards my body and come across. And I'm gonna be using the serratus anterior muscle to help me do that. So I'll show you again on the other side. Tail hand leads, and then I'm gonna have the center grip hand, elbow, staying in close to the body. I wanna have the elbow stacked, straight wrist, up into the mace, and then finishing nice and close into the body. And so it's this kind of double action of pulling the mace and then pressing the mace from underneath that is gonna give me so much more power. And it's also gonna do an incredible thing for my shoulders, whereby, switch to that side once more, the tail hand shoulder is opening, and I'm actually kind of performing this scapular retraction as one would do in like a pull-up. It's a relatively similar thing. I'm pulling the shoulder blade down and back. Now the center grip hand is going to be coming up, in, and across. And so it's almost like I'm literally throwing an uppercut punch. I'm coming in and across the body. And as this starts to click, it feels so freaking powerful. And so that's the reason I'm calling out this very subtle cue of the elbows, because it makes such a huge difference in how smooth and how powerful our uppercuts are. So we have our uppercuts. You wanna be making them as smooth as you can. You wanna be rotating your body slightly, and you're gonna end up with an incredible workout using the uppercut. If you enjoyed this technique breakdown, you will love my 8-week Mace Flow training course, which breaks down 24 essential drills from beginner to advanced in only 8 weeks, cutting out the years of trial and error that it took me to study the same stuff and to maximize the mace in my workouts. This course combines tutorials, weekly programmed workouts, and even live coaching calls with yours truly every single week, so you get every question answered. It's an incredible course. I've heard nothing but amazing things from all the students who have taken it, and I promise it will bring you to vistas of Mace Flow you've never experienced in the past. So you can learn more at the link in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, my friends, and may the mace be with you.